Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Dr. Barkis Ophthalmology Tutorials. Today we will discuss about acanthamoeba keratitis. Okay, so in this video we will discuss everything about acanthamoeba keratitis, that is the definition, the causative organisms, specific symptoms and the signs of the acanthamoeba keratitis, what are the close differentials for this acanthamoeba keratitis and how to manage the case of acanthamoeba keratitis. So if you see the definition of the acanthamoeba keratitis, it is nothing but the infection and the inflammation of the cornea which is caused by the protozoa, that is the acanthamoeba. Okay. So what is this acanthamoeba? So this acanthamoeba is a free-living protozoa which is found in the swimming pools, the freshwater reservoirs, and the life cycle of this acanthamoeba needs a special mention because it exists in two forms called as the trophozoites and the cyst. It is important to know about this life cycle of the acanthamoeba because that plays an important role in the clinical symptoms which it presents and also in the management of the acanthamoeba keratitis. So these trophozoites are motile organisms which contain one single nucleus with the contractile cytoplasmic vacuoles. Okay, so that is trophozoites, and when the surrounding condition of this trophozoite becomes unfavorable, they will form into the cyst. So they will remain in the corneal tissues for very long time. So these cysts are very much resistant. So they are resistant to the heating up to even 65 to 70 degrees Celsius of heating. They are resistant to the freeze-thaw technique as well. They are resistant to the gamma radiation as well as the UVB radiation. Okay. So these cysts are very resistant for any of the environmental conditions, and once the environmental conditions become favorable, they will get converted into the trophozoites again and they will cause the infection. So we have 8 species of this acanthamoeba. In that, the acanthamoeba castanelli and the polyphaga are important. They will cause the human infections. So how this will cause a human infection? So in the immunocompromised patients, this acanthamoeba will lead to acanthamoeba encephalitis as well as the cutaneous acanthamoeba. Whereas in immunocompetent patients, it can lead to the corneal infection, that is the acanthamoeba keratitis. Okay. So whenever we speak of acanthamoeba, what comes to our mind immediately is the contact lens usage. So this acanthamoeba occurs in the immunocompetent persons who use the contact lens in an unhygienic way. That is, the contact lens solution can be infected, or they can use the homemade saline or the homemade water solution to use the contact lens. So that can predispose these patients for the acanthamoeba keratitis. And minor amount of ocular trauma is necessary to initiate this process of infection, and if they are exposed to the contaminated water, they will develop acanthamoeba keratitis. The condition is usually unilateral, but it can be bilateral also. But this infection is a vision threatening infection if you don't treat at the appropriate time. And the incidence of this acanthamoeba is equal in both men and women. So coming to the symptoms of this acanthamoeba keratitis, the symptoms which are common to the corneal ulcer, like the diminution of vision, watering, redness, foreign body sensation, photophobia, all will be there. But the pain is the major hinting point here. So the pain is so much, the pain is not correlating with the signs of the keratitis again here. So the patient will be having intense pain because of the perineuritis which develops there, as well as because of the limbitis and the scleritis. So these 3 inflammations will lead to intense pain, which is the major symptom in the acanthamoeba keratitis. So coming to the signs of this acanthamoeba keratitis, I will be explaining the corneal signs first and then the signs which are there in the other part of the eye. So in the cornea, it can involve the epithelium, it can involve the stroma of the cornea. So when it is involving only the epithelium, the signs can be either there can be epithelial defect, there can be epithelial haziness and microcyst formation and pseudodendrite formation. So this is important sign because you have to differentiate this from the dendrites of the viral keratitis. So there is pseudodendritic formation in the epithelial stage of the acanthamoeba keratitis, and there can be punctate epithelial erosions as well. And these epithelial signs will wax and wane even when the patient is on treatment. That is important because once there is exacerbation of the signs, then you may think that the patient is not responding to the treatment, but it is not like that. The patient will be having this wax and wane even during the treatment course because of the life cycle which I explained. That is, the trophozoite will go into the cystic form, and again when the environmental conditions become favorable, they will again form the trophozoite and lead to the symptoms again. So there is waxing and waning of the epithelial signs in the acanthamoeba keratitis. So when the acanthamoeba involves the stroma, there will be what is known as stromal infiltrates. So these can be either single stromal infiltrate or the multiple stromal infiltrate, or this can either be in the form of ring, that is called as ring infiltrates, which are specific for the acanthamoeba keratitis. Again, usually it is just paracentral ring infiltrate which is seen in the acanthamoeba keratitis. There are also satellite lesions which will confuse you to the fungal keratitis. So the presence of satellite lesions differentiate between the fungal keratitis as well as the acanthamoeba keratitis. There can be stromal melt leading to desmetocele formation as well as the perforation of the corneal ulcer. Okay, so these are the epithelial and the stromal signs of the cornea which you see in the acanthamoeba keratitis. When we see the other structures of the eye, like in the lid, in the acanthamoeba keratitis, there can be lid edema, there can be pseudotosis formation, and it can lead to the anterior uveitis, that is the iritis, and the anterior uveitis leading to transient hypopion formation. That is depending upon the exacerbation of the disease, a hypopion will appear and again it can disappear. And there can be scleritis, which can be anterior or posterior scleritis, or it can be even diffuse or the nodular scleritis. So these are the other signs which you will see when you examine the patient. Okay. So coming to the lab investigations which we do in acanthamoeba keratitis, the scraping, which is common for all the keratitis, which I have explained in detail in my previous videos. So scraping followed by microscopy or the culture of the specimen, followed by the corneal biopsy, and then one more is the confocal microscopy. I will explain in detail now. So here the specimens can be the corneal scraping or the used contact lens or even the contact lens solution. So all of this can be subjected to the investigation. So when you are doing the microscopy, you can use either the Gram staining or Jameson stain, the Wheatley trichrome stain. When you examine under these stains, so the trophozoite will be seen as a large single nucleus organism with a pseudopodia. But when the cyst is seen, it is seen as a double-walled cyst with the inner cyst having polygonal shape. So this is what you observe under the microscope. When you want to culture this specimen, we use the non-nutrient agar with the E. coli overlay. So this is the medium which is used for acanthamoeba. So this is most commonly asked question in your Viva as well as your entrance exam questions. So non-nutrient agar with the E. coli overlay. So when the specimen is inoculated on this media, so the growth will be in the form of tracts, because the acanthamoeba will be eating the E. coli and it will be moving, forming a tract. But there is no growth of other bacterial organisms because you are using non-nutrient agar. That's how the culture growth will be seen. And suppose there is no immediate culture media available to inoculate the specimen, then you can send the specimen, that is the contact lens or the saline or the corneal scrapings, in the Page saline. Okay, this is the transport media which is used to transport the specimen. And the next investigation is the corneal biopsy. So this is indicated whenever the epithelium is intact, that is there is no epithelial keratitis but the stromal involvement is there. Then go for the corneal biopsy. The procedure of this I have explained in my previous video in the fungal keratitis. The next is the confocal microscopy. You can see the live trophozoites in the specimen. Okay. So these are the investigations which are done in acanthamoeba keratitis. So as I explained in the signs of the keratitis, there is formation of pseudodendrites in the acanthamoeba keratitis. So you have to differentiate it from the true dendrites which are formed in the viral keratitis. So if you take the viral keratitis and there is dendrite, the dendrite will be ulcerated in case of viral keratitis, whereas in the acanthamoeba keratitis it need not be ulcerated and it is elevated and also it has gelatinous appearance. So if you come to the stromal keratitis, the infiltrates are usually large in case of viral keratitis but they are small in case of acanthamoeba keratitis. And the one more sign which I explained in the signs is the satellite lesions. So because of the presence of the satellite lesions, you will have to differentiate this from the fungal keratitis. So the fungal keratitis are usually slowly progressive and they are non-separative compared to the acanthamoeba keratitis. When it comes to the symptoms, the acanthamoeba keratitis will have so much of pain. The pain is very less in case of fungal keratitis. And there is no ring infiltrate in case of fungal keratitis, that is present in case of acanthamoeba keratitis. So moving on to the treatment of acanthamoeba keratitis, we have the medical treatment as well as the non-medical treatment. In the medical treatment, we have the drugs which are used topically to treat the acanthamoeba keratitis. So in this, we have biguanides, okay, diamides, imidazoles and the aminoglycosides. In the diamides, we have hexamidine and the propamidine. Polyhexamethylene biguanide, which is used in the concentration of 0.02 to 0.06%, is more effective compared to all other medications because it will kill both trophozoites and the cyst, which may not happen with the other things. So there is exacerbation of the disease. So PHMB can be used in this concentration. So how this PHMB acts? So this will interact with the cytoplasmic membrane and lead to the leakage of the cellular contents, thereby destroying the organism. So that's how the PHMB acts. This is used in the concentration of 0.02 to 0.06%. And how frequently it should be used? It should be used 1 to 2 times per hour. So remember, it is per hour. So in the whole day it may go up to 25 to 30 times per day. and then it is slowly tapered, and the maintenance therapy is for years. Okay, so the PHMB should be given for such a long time to treat the acanthamoeba keratitis. And the side effect of this PHMB is the vascularization of the cornea. And the other treatment options are the epithelial debridement. As you know, the advantages of the epithelial debridement, it will decrease the load of the organisms and help in the penetration of the drug. You can use the cryotherapy, that is freeze-thaw technique. By using the retinal probe, you can do freeze-thaw technique and do the cryotherapy for the cornea. So this is done prior to the penetrating keratoplasty, so as to destroy all the cysts and the trophozoites which are present in the diseased cornea. But remember, even this cryotherapy may not completely kill the cyst. Okay, so there are chances of recurrence of this acanthamoeba keratitis, the graft which is done. The next option is the penetrating keratoplasty, which is done whenever there is impending perforation. The main point in the treatment of the corneal ulcer because of the acanthamoeba is the pain management. To decrease the pain of the acanthamoeba keratitis, the drugs which are used are Clinoril or the Sulindac. Avoid the narcotic drugs. You can also go for the retrobulbar alcohol injection, that is a retrobulbar block you can give to alleviate the pain, where we will be injecting 0.33 ml of the alcohol combined with the 0.67 ml of the lidocaine. Okay, so this is about the pain management. You can also add the corticosteroids, but it should be used judiciously because it has the advantage, that is the corticosteroids has the advantage of decreasing the severity of the sequelae of this acanthamoeba keratitis. At the same time, it will worsen the infection because it will lead to the excision of the cyst. It means it will aid in rupture of this cyst and release of the trophozoite, and it will also help in the proliferation of the trophozoites which are already there. So because of these two reasons, the corticosteroids will worsen the acanthamoeba keratitis. So use the corticosteroids judiciously. So this is all about the acanthamoeba keratitis, right from the organisms, signs, symptoms, treatment and the investigation. So hope this video on acanthamoeba keratitis is useful to all of you. If you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel. Press the bell icon for further notification. Please do like and share my videos and leave your valuable comments.